How do you start your day? For millions of us, it's with something simple, something comforting, like a warm piece of toast with butter. It's the taste of comfort, of home, isn't it? But what if that simple comfort was hiding a deadly secret? What if the stick of butter sitting in your refrigerator right now could contain bacteria that cause severe illness, or even sharp fragments of metal? It sounds unbelievable, but this isn't a horror movie. This has been the terrifying truth behind certain butters sold across America. We buy it without a second thought, trusting it to be safe, especially since we often eat it raw, without ever cooking it. Today, we are pulling back the curtain on the 7 worst butter recalls in recent U.S. history. We'll investigate how these trusted products became so dangerous and what the real health risks are, especially for those of us whose immune systems aren't as strong as they used to be. And I promise you, you'll want to stay until the very end, because the final brand on our list is one of the most famous and beloved names in America, a name your family has probably trusted for generations. Let's get into it. So, where does our first hidden danger come from? Let's start our countdown at number 7, with a threat that's completely invisible to the naked eye. This is the case of Bungie North America in 2025. In July of that year, the company was forced to recall over 64,000 pounds of butter. The reason wasn't bacteria or debris. It was a silent but potentially deadly mistake, an undeclared allergen. Specifically, milk. Now, for most of us, that's not an issue. But for someone with a severe milk allergy, failing to list it on the label of a dairy product is like planting a landmine in their food. Do you know anyone with a serious food allergy? If you do, you understand just how terrifying this is. Exposure can trigger everything from severe hives and swelling to anaphylactic shock, a reaction where your airway can close up. It can be fatal. This was so serious, the FDA classified it as a Class 1 recall, their highest and most urgent level of alert. And this danger wasn't just in a few stores. This butter was distributed nationwide, sold on Amazon, and even sent internationally. It could have easily ended up in your fridge. Thankfully, no official illnesses were reported. But think about it. Thousands of units had already been sold before the recall. That's a ticking bomb in kitchens across the country. It goes to show that sometimes the biggest danger isn't a foreign object added to our food, but a common ingredient that's not warned about on the label. From a danger on the label, our number 6 case involves a danger lurking inside the butter itself. And this is a name that many of you, especially on the East Coast, probably know and trust: Cabot Creamery. In April 2025, Cabot issued a voluntary recall for its salted butter due to contamination with coliform bacteria. Now that's the scientific term. What it indicates is deeply unsettling. These bacteria live in the digestive tract of animals and humans, so their presence in food is a major red flag for, well, there's no delicate way to put this, potential fecal contamination. Eating a product with this kind of contamination can lead to severe gastrointestinal illness, cramping, diarrhea, and vomiting. And for those with compromised immune systems, something that's more common as we age, an infection like this can be far more serious. But here's where the story takes a turn. Cabot, or rather its parent company, acted fast. They state that they pulled 99.5% of the affected butter from shelves before shoppers could even buy it. That swift, responsible action likely prevented a widespread outbreak of illness. So what's the lesson here?
This case proves that these issues can strike even the most respected brands. It's a stark reminder that in today's food system, you can never be too careful. Does seeing a trusted name on this list make you think twice? It's an important question to ask.
All right, so we've seen how a classic, respected brand can have a slip-up. But what about the store brands we rely on every single week from the big retailers we trust? That brings us to number 5. And this one is a giant. Coming in at number 5, Kirkland Signature. Yes, we're talking about Costco's own in-house brand. In November 2024, they were hit with a massive recall. The reason? Once again, an undeclared milk allergen. But the scale here was just staggering. We're talking about over 80,000 pounds of both salted and unsalted butter pulled from Costco warehouses across the entire country. Now, I want you to pause for a second. How many of you are Costco members? How many of you have a pack of Kirkland butter in your fridge or freezer right this very moment? It really hits home, doesn't it? And the risk was just as severe as our first case. For someone with a serious milk allergy, an unlabeled product isn't just an inconvenience, it's a potentially fatal threat. This recall was a huge deal, one of the biggest of the year. It's a powerful lesson. We love our store brands, and we trust a place like Costco to get it right. But this proves that even with the biggest, most reputable retailers, things can fall through the cracks. It's a reminder for all of us to be our own best advocates. And that means always, always checking the label. From a massive recall at a warehouse club, we move to a high-end grocery store that many people swear by for its quality. And this time, the danger isn't an allergen, but a particularly nasty bacteria. At number 4, we have Wegmans. In 2022, this beloved chain had to recall its gourmet-sounding lemon dill finishing butter. The culprit was one of the most dangerous bacteria you can find in food, listeria. What makes listeria so scary is that it can actually grow in the cold temperatures of your refrigerator. It causes an infection called listeriosis, which can be severe, even deadly, especially for certain groups: pregnant women, newborns, and adults over 65. That makes this a particularly serious threat for many of us. But here's the really interesting and frightening part of this story. The problem wasn't the cream or the salt. The listeria was traced back to just one single ingredient from an outside supplier, the dill. Even though it was just the herb, the risk of cross-contamination meant the entire product was now dangerous. This case is a fascinating lesson. First, it shows that gourmet doesn't mean safer. A fancy product is still part of a complex industrial system. Second, it reveals just how complicated our food supply chain is. Your finished product is only as safe as its weakest ingredient. It really makes you think about how many different hands and places our food passes through before it gets to our table, doesn't it?
We were just talking about the dangers of listeria, and that threat rears its head again in our number 3 spot. But this time, the story is a little different. It involves a smaller brand and a decision made out of an abundance of caution. Let's talk about Homestead Creamery. Back in 2020, this Virginia-based creamery made a bold move. They recalled their unsalted butter because of the potential for listeria. Now here's the key point. The bacteria's presence was never 100% confirmed in the final product. So why the recall? Because the company knew that even the smallest risk wasn't worth taking. They understood, as we've discussed, what a dangerous foe listeria is, especially for those with weaker immune systems. Even a tiny amount can cause devastating illness. They decided protecting their customers was more important than waiting for a disaster to happen. This makes me think. We often assume the big corporations, with all their checks and balances, are the safest. But sometimes it's the smaller brands, the ones whose reputation is on the line with every single product, who are the most careful. Do you agree? Who do you trust more, a massive corporation or a smaller local producer? In this case, Homestead Creamery chose the path of caution. It was a smart move, a move that showed they put your health ahead of their profits. And it's a reminder that the threat of listeria in refrigerated dairy products is real and ever-present, and responsible companies have to stay vigilant. From a modern story of caution, let's turn back the clock for our number 2 spot. We're going to the early 2000s, a time when things were a bit different, and that includes how food recalls were handled. Remember the name Xander's Creamery? It was a popular brand in its day. In April 2004, they issued a voluntary recall for their butter and butterine products. But what makes this case so different is where the butter went. Xander's didn't just supply grocery stores, they were a major wholesaler to restaurant chains and diners. Think about the little butter pads you get with your dinner rolls, or the butter melting on your morning pancakes at a diner. There was a good chance it came from Xander's. So when this recall happened, it created a headache not just for shoppers, but for chefs and restaurant owners who had to suddenly find a new supplier. And because this was 2004, the flow of information was much slower. Details about why the product was recalled weren't as instantly available as they are today, which could be unsettling for consumers. Thankfully, no illnesses were reported. But this case is a powerful reminder that the safety of our food isn't just about what we buy at the store. It's also about the trust we place in restaurants every time we dine out. We all know that restaurant butter just seems to taste better. But this makes you think, doesn't it? It makes you wonder about the supply chains behind the scenes of your favorite local spot.
And now, we've arrived at number 1, the case we hinted at in the very beginning. This is perhaps the most shocking recall of all, because it involves a brand that is practically synonymous with butter in America, a name that's been on family tables for generations. I'm talking about Land O'Lakes. In 2003, this iconic brand was forced into a massive recall because people were finding metal fragments in their butter. Let that sink in. This isn't an invisible bacteria or a hidden allergen that affects only some. This is a physical contaminant, a danger anyone can see and feel, and one that can cause immediate, violent harm. We're talking about a severe choking hazard, the risk of cutting your mouth, your throat, or causing internal bleeding and damage. It's the kind of thing you truly don't expect from a brand you may have trusted for 50 years. The recall was enormous. 126,000 pounds of butter across 22 states. This wasn't just another recall. It was a major news event. It shattered the trust of millions. A brand that your parents used, that you served to your own children, suddenly became a source of fear. Even after the butter was declared safe again, some customers just couldn't bring themselves to trust the brand in the same way. A recall this dangerous leaves a scar, and it's a very difficult thing for a company to recover from. That feeling of broken trust is really at the heart of what we've talked about today. From undeclared allergens and invisible bacteria, to the complexities of the supply chain and even physical objects in our food. Now, the point of this video isn't to make you afraid to open your refrigerator. It's to remind us that we need to be vigilant. It's to show that we, as consumers, need to be aware, check labels, and stay informed about the products we bring into our homes. What do you think? Did any of these recalls surprise you? Do you remember when the Land O'Lakes story broke? Share your thoughts and experiences in the comments below. We read every single one. And if you found this video informative and want more content that helps you stay safe and informed, please consider liking this video and subscribing to our channel. It helps us a great deal. Thank you so much for spending your time with us today. Stay safe, stay informed, and we'll see you in the next video.